One, two, three, four.
Hello, you're listening to the SKYLIT Books podcast series. We are a general interest independent bookstore located in the Los Feliz neighborhood of Los Angeles, California. This year, because of the coronavirus pandemic, we've had to close our store and cancel in-person events. But SKYLIT is your neighborhood bookstore, and we are finding ways to create community even while we're far apart. In the coming weeks, we'll be putting out lots of new audio content to help you discover new books, connect with authors, and check in with your favorite booksellers. To learn more about how you can help keep SKYLIT alive, please visit our website at skylitbooks.com or check out our social media accounts on Twitter and Instagram. You can subscribe to the podcast on Podbean, iTunes, and Spotify. Thank you for listening and enjoy.
Hello, lovely listeners, and welcome to SKYLIT. This is the SKYLIT Books podcast series. My name is Maddie Gobbo. I'm the events manager here at SKYLIT Books in Los Angeles. We are still open for in-store shopping every day, 11 to 7 and on weekdays and 10 to 8 on weekends. We also offer curbside pickup those same hours, and we're open 24/7 on our website, skylitbooks.com. So today we are going to be discussing a new short story collection, We Were Lucky with the Rain, which is by Susan Buttenwieser, and she's going to be in conversation with Lyman Clayborn. So I'm going to read a little bit about them in just a second, but first, some words about the book. The characters inhabiting Susan Buttenwieser's debut story collection, We Were Lucky with the Rain, stand at the margin of society, often perched on the knife's edge of economic disaster. Her characters cope with emotional and physical isolation as they try to build, keep, or renew family structures. No quick fixes, no miracle cures await the people within these stories. This is fiction devoted to realism. Susan Buttenwieser is the author of the short story collection, We Were Lucky with the Rain, which was just published by Four Way Books in September. Her writing has been nominated for a Pushcart Prize and appeared in numerous literary publications and received fellowships from the Virginia Center for the Creative Arts. She contributes news features regularly to Women's Media Center and teaches creative writing in New York City public schools and in high-poverty neighborhoods with incarcerated women and older adults. Lyman Clayborn has been a librarian since 2011. He is currently the coordinator of services for older adults at Brooklyn Public Library. A native of North Carolina, Lyman has lived the last 6 years in New York City. Susan and Lyman, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for having us. Thank you so much.
Well, I'm really looking forward to this conversation. And I think, Susan, if you would like to start us off with a little bit of a reading so we can get a taste of the collection, I would love to hear it.
Okay, sure. Thank you. I'm just going to read the beginning of one of the stories that's called The Last Supper. Even though it's only Thursday, Jack and his family are going to watch a movie tonight, his mother announces when he gets home from school. His father is going to choose the film. You can have Coke to drink with dinner if you want. She mixes in a teaspoon of cold coffee into a bowl of chocolate icing. A freshly baked cake is cooling nearby on the counter. Even me, Tommy asks. Their mother is always telling him that 5 is too young for soda. Even you, she says. He is so excited that he spills his apple juice. He thinks the cake and the soda with dinner and the movie on a non-weekend night are all good news. It's Daddy's special night, like when it's your birthday. She's down on all fours, sponging up Tommy's drink off the linoleum floor. He nods slowly, as if he understands what she's talking about. Except it's not their father's birthday. A month ago, Jack's mom told him and Tommy that their father got a new job, but it was so far away that he would have to move there. It would only be for a few years, she said, but she wasn't sure if they could visit him or not. Also, he was kind of nervous about his new job, and they must never talk to him about it. Remember, Tommy, when you were scared about the first day of school? Well, that's how Daddy feels. But Derek Winters, who lives across the street and used to be Jack's friend, showed everyone in the entire 4th grade the article in the paper. 2 to 5 years for grand larceny, the headline said. Although Tommy couldn't read yet and never saw the news, still he was pretty confused by their mother's explanation. Tommy remembered not to ask their father anything, but he had a lot of questions for her. Where exactly was Daddy going, and what was his new job? And why couldn't they visit him? It made no sense. And he really couldn't understand why they didn't all move together like his best friend's family did last year when his father got a job in California. When Tommy got going with the questions, their mom would scream a tsunami of angry words, and all three of them would wind up in tears. Then his mother would sit outside in the yard with a big glass of wine until it was dark and late and she forgot all about dinner. They'd eat cereal in a rush right before bed, the milk and honey nut Cheerios churning around in Jack's stomach while he lay under the covers, and it would take a long time to fall asleep. Jack had to do something to make Tommy stop. He told Tommy that their dad was actually a spy on a secret mission, and if he kept asking questions, Tommy would ruin the whole thing. Daddy is a superhero? Tommy asked. You can't tell anyone, promise? Jack said, and also promise that you'll stop asking Mom about his new job. So finally, Tommy did.
Susan, I so enjoyed your collection of stories, and I'm glad you picked this one because it was one of my favorites. Um, it made me wonder, so with this story and all of your stories, are they autobiographical or are they simply observations you've had in life, or do you just totally make them up from your imagination?
Um, they're not autobiographical. They're more observations of things and and things that I've from my imagination. I mean, kind of a combination. I usually have an idea or an image and that I start with. Like for instance, with this one, which is about the last evening of the family before the father starts his prison sentence. I just had this, I got the idea from a newspaper article, and I just sort of started with this idea about the night, and their evening together, and I wanted to tell it from the point of view of the child, but a child who was had some information, not the really young child, and also the idea of the older sibling kind of trying to protect, being really caught in the middle of the two. But I guess a lot of the stories sort of start with sometimes I'll just see, and I'll see something, an image or something will come to me, like I'll see something and I'll like make a whole story about it, and I'll just need to sort of spend some time with the characters to kind of get their get the idea of what's going on with them. So,
And
but yeah, sorry. But yeah, I guess I sort of immediately knew that I wanted it to be from the child's point of view, but a child with some information, but not at all of the information. So like that was the tension, and I just kind of went from there.
I love it. I love it. And maybe not to this one, but a lot of the stories when I was reading them, um, could you speak to maybe the setting or the place? Because there were quite a few that really stuck with me as far as a great setting, a sense of place.
Yeah,
Can you?
so yeah, well, I grew up in the like just outside Boston, and so many of the stories are set in this combination of real things from that whole area and my imagination. So I've kind of have this imaginary town kind of that's based on a lot of real things in the whole greater Boston area. So yeah, it's kind of like a that sort of tension between real and in my own head. There's a couple that aren't set there, but mostly like that's sort of, I feel like this somehow there's like everyone is somehow connected to that area in the stories.
I like that. I love stories, collections of short stories when I'm reading them, and I feel like there's a web of connection between them. We can get into how you and I know each other because you are also a teacher, as not only a writer, as was mentioned in your biography. And in this story, I thought about part of your job and your as a teacher because you've done work with incarcerated women, I believe.
That's right. Yeah. So I teach, well, we know each other because I teach writing with older adults through the Brooklyn Public Library, but I also teach in public schools and arts education programs in New York City that specifically are in high poverty neighborhoods. And then I also do I do teach in a correctional facility with incarcerated women. And so I mean, I would never, I mean, I also write, I've written a lot of news articles about issues around incarcerated women. um, and I think it's sort of an issue I think about a lot. And I also, with this story in particular, I don't like, I would never want to tell somebody else's story. I feel like all of the people that I work with and teach with, I want them to be able to tell their own stories, and I would never, that their stories are separate. But I definitely feel like they're, like, I'm just feeling what, for incarcerated women in particular, like, the being separated from their children is literally like, it's like they're in agony over it. And so that's really stuck with me, as a human being and as a parent myself. I really, really think about that all the time. And so I guess with this story, I was kind of interested to think about what it's like for the child, especially a child who doesn't even know, like a young, like he's 9, so he sort of has some information, but he can't even imagine what this is going to be like to be separated like this. And um, so yeah, I guess like just the emotional, like, knowledge I guess I get from just being in life and through teaching, definitely plays into my writing, but not in a sort of, not in a like factual way, like I heard something and then I would use it in a story, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it that does make sense, because there is a strain of authenticity that runs through each of these stories. I can really feel the emotion behind them. So maybe we should also talk about how you and I met. So as mentioned, I am the coordinator of services for older adults at the Brooklyn Public Library. And you had been doing programs in person with
Mhm.
our older adults age 50 and older for quite a few years at Brooklyn Public Library. And then maybe you want to speak to the process of what happened
Yeah.
in March when
Yeah.
COVID hit.
Yeah. So I've been teaching with older adults at the Brooklyn Public Library for several years. And this one group of, there's a one writing workshop that I've been working with off and on for several years. And we started a new, like, we'll have sort of like a 10-week session, right? Or something like that. And a new session started literally on March 2nd of 2020. And we had 2 sessions, and then the pandemic um, caused New York City to go into lockdown, and the library shut, and everything shut. So we switched to being remote. And at the suggestion of somebody in the group who said, during our last session, which was our second session, we were worried about it, and somebody suggested, what if we did this over the phone? Were there be a way after we quickly, like literally at the end, collected everyone's phone numbers, and I set up a conference call, and we met by phone for a while. Some people were pretty nervous about, I suggested doing it over video, but it was pretty early in the pandemic, and people weren't quite used to Zoom, like the way now it's like, it's like second nature to everybody. And even I know a few people said they wouldn't attend if we switched to video, and I didn't want to exclude them, obviously. And so we went along, and then in the summer, I guess there was another grant that wanted us to be. We got a grant through Apple Bank, and they wanted to be over Zoom specifically. But by that time, everyone, I think, no matter what, people have been talking with their grandkids or whatever, so people were really comfortable. And then it was like this revelation to be able to see each other. And that's when you joined in the summer too, during that session.
Yes. So I had helped to implement the programs go virtual on Zoom for the older adults. And basically, as the librarian, I was just going to attend each of our programs just to make sure they were going okay and everyone was satisfied. And I just literally got sucked into your program because you have such an open, honest, creative air about you in your classes, and it just became an addiction every week for me to just be in that writing group. And a lot of that also, we do have to say, has to do with the patrons too,
Oh,
especially
yeah.
during the pandemic. You probably have some
Yes. Yeah.
stories about that.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, like I think that the group is really this incredible. There's a core group of women in this particular writing workshop. I know they take other classes at the through, the Brooklyn Public Library, but they've been meeting and writing together. I think they said for 9 years. So sometimes they've had someone like me, like a teaching artist, come in and work with them, and sometimes they've just. But when that's not happening, they've managed to keep it going. So like they've formed a really really tight bond, and even though there's been new people that have been added into the fold, I think there's like this warmth and trust, and I get the feeling that through the years, even before the pandemic, that many of them have gone through a lot, over the years. So now that we're been in this extreme situation where people are really, really struggling, I think they are really able to like uh, gather around each other virtually, and create this really warm space. And it's been incredible. I mean, people have come to the workshop literally from attending a funeral. People have jumped on and they're like, oh, sorry, I'm an hour late, but I was just like literally at a funeral. And then, everyone sort of was leapt in to comfort them. And people have gone through very intense things. People have lost people, participants, patrons in the writing workshop have literally lost husbands, best friends, family members, and they'll still come. And sometimes people say, I'm, it's too hard for me today, I'm just going to listen. But other times people just read, like we won't even know what's going on with them. And they'll read a poem they wrote, and then it will come out. And the ability of everyone they're trained grief counselors or something. It's just incredible. It's just a very, very, very supportive, warm environment, even for the people who are new. Even this fall, like new people came, and I think they felt so wrapped, like comforted, and like in a sort of communal hug from everybody.
Yeah, it's really a free space for people to almost gain therapy along with socialization, a sense of non-isolation. I like the way that you run the program where you begin with a piece of writing, typically poetry, sometimes prose, and then you have all the attendees read that and then take from that whatever inspires them. It's so wonderful to see how each person interprets a piece differently.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I also feel like from teaching in school, and especially where it's much more of a formal lesson plan, I do really want to sort of demystify poetry for for everybody, and to feel like I feel like poetry can feel so intimidating, and for people who are not poets and don't regularly read poetry, you sort of think of being in high school and reading maybe something you don't understand at all. So I'm hoping to demystify it, and so I work really hard to try to find things that I think they can each whoever I'm teaching with, what they can relate, like what they could relate to. And because it's been mostly women in the group, we've looked at a lot of women, and because of what's been going on, I've been trying to find things that can address it. And this group is so willing to really go there that I feel like we can like really look at poems that are tackling hard stuff. But yeah, we just sort of have an open discussion about the poems, and also I'm not myself. I don't have like a PhD in poetry, so I'm also just responding to it and in that way too. But yeah, it's incredible how. And I also want them to feel like whatever they write, that's another thing. So because everyone's sort of writing their own thing, there's this tendency at first for people to say like, oh, he did it wrong, or I'm doing my writing wrong, and I'm trying to make them feel like, no, it's your voice is different from everybody else's, so you're going to sound different.
And I like that it's not like a typical writing workshop where everyone is critiquing one another. It's almost more of a support group, and not a lot of critiquing or nitpicking. It's basically just letting everyone express themselves in their own way during isolation. I know for me, I had written way back many years ago when I was in my 20s, and basically life just got busy and I haven't. But something about stepping into your program, and maybe also during this time of COVID, it was almost like it turned on the spark. And I think it happens for a lot of our older adults and senior citizens who make the choice to come to these programs.
Yeah, I mean, you're a really great writer, and
No, no, no.
you are, and I do think like that's my real hope, is that people will kind of like, I feel like there's this tendency to view yourself as either I am a writer or I'm not a writer, and if you're not a writer, then you're not allowed to write. um, or if you're not an artist, right? Like with the other programs that you do, right? Like people like, if I'm not like, I'm not an artist, so I would never feel comfortable, or I would have a hard time feeling comfortable drawing or doing art, because I don't view myself that way. And what I'm hoping to do, and is to sort of like, I'll give permission to write and express yourself in that way. I just also want to say, I think another really thing that makes the group so warm is that they do see each other in the other at the other programs that the Brooklyn Public Library has, and it's really unique. Like, does the extent to the programming that you all have.
Well, well, we do try to have extensive programming for older adults because the county that Brooklyn is in is the largest county for the older adult population in the state of New York. So Brooklyn Public Library really does try to focus on older adults, and which is unusual. Some library systems that basically just divide outreach into youth and then
Yeah.
adults. So at Brooklyn Public, we do have this whole department that I am coordinating, which is focusing on older adults. And it is really rewarding. Yesterday, I was in a class that is collage and poetry, and we had a lady who said she never saw herself as a writer, but through the encouragement of the librarians and the teacher and the students there, she feels like she's a writer now. And I think that that is very helpful to
Yeah.
everyone, like you said, to feel like that they can be a writer too and get their feelings out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like at our culminating event today at the workshop, people were talking about that, how they felt, they have a different view of themselves. And I also think it's really great to have the participation from the Brooklyn, like from you all, from the Brooklyn Public Library, like, you know, employees and librarians, to have like, makes it feel really professional to have that you guys are all joining in as well. Um, and yeah, I mean, I'm a huge believer in that it's never too late. I really do. I mean, like my book, I'm 55 and this is my first book. And I was really inspired by this article that Roxane Gay wrote a couple of years ago. And she was talking, it was literally, I remember, I still have it. It was from New Year's Eve, 2017. And it was like, it was an essay about like, is it too late to, it was something like, is it too late to like, follow your dreams? And her whole essay was like, it's never too late. You're not a late bloomer, you're already blooming. So like, I have it yellowed on my desk still, so
That's awesome. That's
yeah.
almost like the Grandma Moses effect. You're never too old to do
Yeah,
art or writing. Yeah.
right. um but yeah, so I mean, I really believe that. So but Lyman, did you I did really think you were a great writer, and I wondered if you'd be willing to share one of your poems.
I can. It was when you had a class which was an ode poem,
Yeah, the Mark
and a-
Jackson.
and you told us to do an ode to something. So mine was an ode to reflecting mirrors. When I turned 16, I lost my modesty and realized the worst thing for a Southern country boy less than an hour from the Atlantic was having Casper the Ghost, pale skin with no tan. So I started laying out after summer chores. My mom disapprovingly saying, "Your freckles are not going to join together, Lyman Jr." But Aunt Janie was my second mom. Aunt Janie also longed for things outside the farm, like golden tans. Aunt Janie worked for the town 5 and dime store, and she finagled us some reflecting mirrors from the dressing rooms they were going to throw out for us to lie on. Reflecting mirrors covered in cooking oil. All we got was breast cancer for Aunt Janie 10 years later and 16 skin cancers throughout my life. I got out of the small town, but Aunt Janie's still there if I need to call her. She's truly my reflecting mirror.
Beautiful. Love that so much.
Thank
Really
you.
beautiful.
So maybe one day I can publish a wonderful book like you have done. I really love your book,
Oh,
Susan.
thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
And thank you for inspiring people like me who are older adults to keep on trying.
But it's been like a complete pleasure to work with you all. So
Thank you.
Thank you both. Lyman, that poem was great. I really enjoyed it, and I'm not a poetry person, so don't be so modest. Susan, thank you so much for sharing your stories and your work as a teacher as well. I think it's really important to talk about that side of writing and the need for writers to foster each other and create these support networks. So thank you for the work that you're doing, and especially with older adults. That's so meaningful. I'm thinking about my own grandmother, who is the best writer in my family, but has never been published. And I know she would love a class like that. All right, so before we say our goodbyes, I just wanted to see if either of you had anything else you wanted to say or talk about that we didn't get a chance to touch on yet.
Not from me. I just wanted to thank you, Maddie, for having us.
You're so welcome. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. I guess I just wanted to reiterate the how moving it's been to work with this particular group this year at the Brooklyn Public Library, and just it's been, I mean, it's been just like it's a thing I'll really cherish as a teacher. It was like a really special experience to be with these people and to have everyone like show up every week so engaged and honest, and it was just really incredibly moving, and it really gave me hope for humanity. I must say that even though we're in this terrible time, to see every week how kind and brave these the participants were. So and thank you so much for having us.
You're so welcome. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Susan Buttenwieser is the author of We Were Lucky with the Rain, the new collection out from Four-Way Books. I hope you order that through SKYLIT. And Lyman Clayborn, soon to be published poet and Brooklyn Public Librarian. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much for listening. I hope you all take care out there in the cold world and find yourselves a circle like Susan's circle of writers to lift you up in these difficult times. All right, everybody, we'll catch you on the flip side.
Thank you for listening to the SKYLIT Books podcast series. Please don't forget to visit our website at skylitbooks.com and make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast for more author talks and bookseller conversations. You can find us on Podbean, iTunes, and Spotify. Stay safe and healthy, and we hope to see you back in our store soon.
I see